Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to episode 246 of the We Can't Wrestle podcast. The brothers Maxon here with you. I'm Nate, that's Aaron.
Hello, everybody.
And this week we are going to continue our journey through the Clash of the Champions.
Yes.
This week we do Clash of the Champions 4, December 7th, 1988. We'll get into it a little more in depth in a few, but this is the first Clash of the Champions after Turner Broadcasting purchases Jim Crockett Promotions, World Championship Wrestling, the NWA. So this is after the purchase. This is Dusty starting to piss people off. He's about to be on his way out. So a lot to cover here to kind of talk about for the next hour about Clash of the Champions 4. But I know, Aaron, you want to get in the time capsule here.
Yes, in the way back machine. And last week I let you guess, so this week I'll let you guess. Top 2 movies, top 2 songs. So what these guys might have been listening to pulling into the arena and what they might have went to watch on their downtime. Do you want the movies or the songs first?
I'm gonna say let's start with the songs, even though with the songs in December of '88, man, I don't even know if I can guess. Like putting myself like with movies, it's funny because I'm better with music as far as music goes, and knowing who did what songs and knowing lyrics and all that. But it's easier for me to place movies in a year.
Yeah. So top 2 songs, if you want to try to guess. I doubt you'll get it, but it's okay.
88.
The first one, the number 1 song is by a female artist. Artist? I don't know why I said it that way.
Is
a
it
female artist?
Is it okay? So there's 88. Is it a Whitney Houston song?
It is.
Okay. I don't know what song though. I was just thinking late 80s female. It's either Whitney Houston or Taylor Dane.
No, it's Whitney Houston, and she is So Emotional, baby.
All right.
So Emotional is the number 1 song. So that might have been playing in one of these guys' cars. I can't think of who. I just like thinking of Steve Williams pulling up and like his Lincoln Continental with So Emotional, baby playing. And so, yeah, I'll give you that one. So you were correct on that. And then the number 2 song. Do you want to try to guess, or you just want me to tell you?
All right, female solo, male solo, or band?
It's a male solo.
Male
He used to be in a band,
solo.
though.
He used to be. Okay, was it a Phil Collins song?
No. This guy was like in the biggest band of all time.
Oh, George Harrison?
Not the greatest, yes. Not the greatest band of all time.
You're like, yes.
But the biggest band of all time, yes, George Harrison.
Got my mind set on you?
Yep.
The song is just 6 words
and
long.
That's part of the reason I put it on. It's like, that's one of my favorite underrated Weird Al Yankovic songs. Yeah, the song is just 6 words long. It's a great fucking parody. And every time I hear a great parody by like an amazing artist, like George Harrison, in my opinion, and our mom has told me, she said, you're correct. Like he's the best Beatle by himself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because Lennon was kind of pretentious, you know, with some of his music. And Paul, he was too poppy, you know? And then obviously I don't need to talk about Ringo. But like George, he was the best by himself. But yeah, I like thinking about Weird Al presenting the song as 6 words long to George Harrison and him being like, ha.
Yes, it's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
That Kurt Cobain said he knew he made it when Weird Al did a parody of his song.
Yeah. I just love thinking about somebody being like, I really appreciate, like, I don't want to talk too much about Weird Al, but like, newer artists like Lady Gaga, you know, like I watched this interview with Weird Al, and I don't know if you know anything about Lady Gaga or whatever, but she had that song, I Was Born This Way, you know, which was like her big anthem for her fans, like
Yeah.
her main fans, like the transgender, like LBGQ community, you know. And I'm not knocking those people. I'm just saying like that was her
Right.
song that she presented to them, and they took it as their anthem. Weird Al wrote, "I perform this way,"
Yeah.
you know, and he said he asked Lady Gaga to like, "Can I have permission to make fun of your song and do this?" And Lady Gaga was like talking about, well, she didn't say it wasn't funny or whatever what she heard, but like she told her fans like Weird Al wants to do this, and she kind of looked at it as how Michael Jackson told Weird Al he could make fun of any song he wanted to make, like he could rip any song Michael ever did, but couldn't touch Thriller.
Yeah.
You know, well, Lady Gaga put it out there. It's like, oh, Weird Al wants to make parody. Baby, I was born this way, and I told him he couldn't do it. And Lady Gaga and Weird Al were both like, her fans were like, no, let him do it. This will be amazing. So she was like, okay. But yeah, just like, I love that guy, man. He's like he's one of the most underrated, talented musicians of all time.
Yes.
He can do anything.
Anybody that knows me knows what a big fan I am. Finally going to get to go see him in July in concert. I want to see him before he croaks. But
he's got years before he does that.
Well, you know what I'm saying, before he stops, because he's slowed way down on doing albums. And but yeah, he
then go ahead, sorry.
Most of my favorite Weird Al songs, because I listen to him like some people listen to normal artists, I listen to Weird Al. Most of my favorite Weird Al songs are non-parody. Like my favorite Weird Al song is Biggest Ball of Twine in Minnesota. And Albuquerque's great.
I like The Night Santa Went Crazy.
That's wonderful. Christmas at Ground Zero.
Yeah.
One More Minute. But anyway, just to keep
and you know what's one? Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine. But yeah, 6 Words Long is definitely one of the best parodies.
And then my favorite, like, you know, I said The Night Santa Went Crazy, but you know my favorite non-parody song he ever did was? And I don't know why. I love Nature Trail to Hell.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
I love that fucking song. But anyway. And then talking about going to see him, I was gonna tell you about this, and then we'll move on to the movies. Steve Martin was gonna be in Fort Wayne. I'm like, oh shit, Steve Martin, and he's gonna be there around your birthday. I was like, oh, I'm gonna see if, and this might make me sound cheap, but when you hear it, you're gonna know that I'm not cheap. I was like, oh, I'll get tickets for me and Nate and Kendall to go see Steve Martin.
You like Elton John
in Fort Wayne? Yeah, and then I was like, I'll look up ticket prices. And he's gonna be at like the embassy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like the cheapest seat for like each seat was like $300. I'm like,
fuck that shit. That's like Elton John.
It's
like Elton John or Billy Joel. Yeah, it's like Elton John or Billy Joel or whatever. It's like $500 for a ticket, whatever.
Yeah. I was like, even if I texted Nate and said I can afford, because I can, but I was like, even if I could afford this, Nate would be like, absolutely not.
No.
We'll just watch it on YouTube.
There's a reason I will never have Sting there's a reason I'll never have Sting or the Undertaker's autograph. Because I am not paying $400 for a picture of me with someone in their autograph.
And that was just tickets. Like that wasn't like, you know, processing fee and this. And it's like, nah, I'm not paying $300. But anyway, I digress. Now we go into the top 2 movies that are not the top 2 movies of '88, but the top 2 movies in this week. They're both comedies, and they're both good.
Okay, so 88,
but completely different.
88 comedies. So, is one of them Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Nope, neither one of them.
Okay, give me one more guess.
The number 1 movie has a big guy and a little guy.
No, so that's Twins.
Yes. Twins is the number 1 movie. It's a good movie.
I know fucking Roger Rabbit came out in '88.
Very well very good. A very good concept for a movie and a very funny movie.
What other comedies? So Twins, I didn't even, to be honest with you, I don't know why I thought Twins was before 88, so I wouldn't have even guessed that.
But the number 2 movie is fantastic. And as like a genre, it's not, how do I say it? It's not the movie that kicked off the genre of parody movies, but it's the most successful one, probably.
Naked Gun?
Yep.
Okay.
Naked Gun
once you
from
said
the
that.
Files of Police Squad is the number 2 movie. I would have a feeling that if I went into January, that movie probably wasn't number 2 very long.
Right.
You know, but that was like a bunch of college kids going and watching that movie like that week and probably flooding the theaters to watch it. But yeah, Twins and Naked Gun were the top 2 movies in this month, and I'm like, yeah, it's a good fucking month.
All right.
You know, Airplane kicked it off. That's the
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's the quintessential.
The originator.
About yeah, and then Naked Gun was able to commercialize it and make it more successful. But yeah, Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad. Good shit. Now we can talk about wrestling.
All right. The just wanted to some YouTube comments.
Romulus
from last Rigamus 11 from last week's show, Clash of the Champions 3.
I fuck his name up every week, and I'm sorry, man.
He agreed with you. A documentary about the sheep herders would be awesome.
It would be.
He says, Mary Mary is such a great song. And he says, that's a good point about the NWO not ruining wrestling, but ruining WCW. He said, also, I didn't mean to come off as a jerk about the Koloff take. Wasn't my intention at all. That's not the way we took it at all, Rigamus.
Yes, I told him that.
But yeah, we also got another comment from another listener, not about this show, but it was a comment on this show, on that episode's show. Ryan Evans, 126. Love your ECW podcast with Chad. You guys are funny. What promotion are you guys considering doing after ECW? Could you guys do WCCW? That would be very interesting, the Von Erichs promotion. And I just commented back, Ryan, I'll just say it here too. Thanks so much for your support. We haven't crossed that bridge yet on what's next after ECW because we've still got quite a few more years to go. But
yeah, I have thought about that though. I thought about WCCW or maybe because it is there's a lot of it on YouTube. I thought about maybe Smoky Mountain.
But yeah, we still got 4 more years.
I don't want to put all my eggs in the WWE Network basket. We might not even get through ECW.
Yeah. Well, we'll just go to our friend. We'll just go to our friend Brian at Brian's Video Vault.
Yep.
If it comes to that. Clash 4, UTC Pavilion, Chattanooga, Tennessee, 8,000 in attendance, December 7th, 1988.
Really
this is a
good house.
Yes, it's a good house. That building is always a good wrestling building too.
Yeah, I looked up what other shows were in it, and I forgot to write them down. But there was a couple of their WCW shows in there, and I think it said In Your House 7.
Yeah, well, I know there was definitely an In Your. Yes, it was. It was. Now that you said Final 4, yes, Final 4 was in Chattanooga.
Yeah, so it's a good wrestling building. Tennessee obviously is always a good state for professional wrestling, and they had a hot crowd. Even though some of the stuff wasn't the best, it was still a good crowd, and this isn't a terrible show.
Aaron and I were doing the voice before we came on the air, but it was the opening video. It's Seasons Beatings. As we head into Starrcade 1988. True Grit,
which has one of my favorite matches on it.
Bigelow and Wyndham.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's an underrated match, and it's in my top 15 favorite just modern era pay-per-view wrestling matches. I love
It's
that
kind
match.
of funny during the main event on this show. It doesn't matter when I say it because I'm going to say it while I'm thinking about it. I don't know why it can't. If it shouldn't be funny, it doesn't. I don't know why. But they talk about Wyndham having his upcoming match with Bigelow at Starrcade during the main event, and Bob Cotto goes, "Yep, he's going to be getting in the ring with Big Boy Bam Bam."
Yeah,
I
Big
don't know
Boy
why.
Bam Bam.
Big Boy Bam Bam. But the opening match here, Jim Ross runs down the card as Eddie Gilbert and Ron Simmons make their way to the ring to face the Fantastics for the the finals of the United States Tag Team Championship Tournament. We have JR and Bob Caudle on the call. I personally thought this match was way too long.
There's a lot of matches on this show that are way too long. And honestly, what I think hurt it was I don't think, and it's one of my first notes is, a lot of the first like storytelling of the match or whatever is Ron Simmons and Bobby Fulton, both super talented guys,
Right.
but they did not mesh well.
Now, I didn't think these two teams meshed well, personally.
Yeah, but
The match lost me a lot.
Simmons and Fulton were really bad. When Eddie gets in there with him, it kind of picks up, but
Mm-hmm.
Ron just did not mesh well with him, and I think part of it has to do with the fact that Ron isn't too far into his career that I know of as a wrestler, and it didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'd have to watch some of the shows coming out of it, but I think they were kind of getting, if you watch the match, I think they were getting more towards getting Eddie as a heel again.
Yeah.
But because Eddie starts doing some cheating tactics and shit in the match, and Ron's not happy about it.
They're going to keep him a face for a little bit because he winds up being the catalyst for bringing Ricky Steamboat in.
Yeah, but the match itself, the match just doesn't jive for me. And but one thing I will say, like I said, I got a little ahead of us because I watched an episode after this. This first Clash 1 to Clash 5, which we're going to talk about next week. The Fantastics, though, are kind of like the MVPs of this early Clash shit. I shouldn't say shit. These Clash shows, they're like it seems like they're almost opening up every show, getting the crowd into it and shit. I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't know. The match to me just kind of, until they really got to the end, I like a good match that slowly builds and everything, but the match itself just kind of slugged along and nobody was really doing anything.
My biggest thing was, again, like I said, I thought the match was too long, and me not necessarily remembering that, because I knew the Fantastics became the United States Tag Team Champions at some point in this time frame, but me not necessarily remembering that they became the U.S. Tag Team Champions during this event kept making me think, wow, this match is going really long. They must be going to do a time limit draw.
Yeah.
And then they get to a minute and a half from when the time limit's supposed to be up, and they go into a finish, and there is a winner. And I was just like, man, that was unnecessarily fucking long. But they're doing the gimmick. They didn't do the gimmick very long, but they started gimmick during the show of the Roadrunner cam, or I guess it's not the Roadrunner cam, but the camera above the ring.
Yeah, which is always a cool shot. NWA did it more than WWF did. WWF did it sometimes, but I actually kind of like the above the ring. I wouldn't want to see it all the time, but it is cool to see,
Yeah.
Especially when all four guys are in there or whatever. I enjoy it.
It's definitely it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea like the referee.
Oh, that's terrible.
That we're gonna get later on.
And It was the headgear that just made it bad.
Yeah.
Like, really? Could you imagine? And could you imagine being that poor referee in that match? Like, oh, we're gonna put this big helmet on you. But you still got to move around and talk to these guys. Like, oh my god.
Look like a fucking idiot.
Yeah. But like a few of the notes that I have is, like I said, Gilbert starting to show some heel tendencies in the match, and Simmons isn't happy about it. And that bump where Simmons went for that shoulder block or whatever, and I think it was Fulton moved out of the way and he hit that big shoulder block into the corner, like that shoulder tackle deal. That looked good. Like I said, it wasn't a terrible match, but like you said, it just kind of overstayed its welcome.
Yeah, I agree. You can definitely, and I know he did through his whole career, but he laid back on it as time went on. You can definitely tell during this event that Jim Ross is not too far removed from working for his mentor Jim Ross, because Bill Watts, because he talks about, I think he talks more about Ron Simmons' football career than he does his wrestling career during this match. But But yeah, the finish, the story is Eddie Gilbert's shoulder gets messed up, and then he winds up missing a shoulder block into I think he misses, or he hits his shoulder like 3 times during the match.
Yeah.
But the one that does him in, he misses a shoulder block into the ring post. Bobby Fulton gets a pin. And one thing I did notice here, that the fans there was some booing going on for the Fantastics. So apparently some people out there were behind Eddie Gilbert and Ron Simmons, because the Fantastics were getting some boos during this whole deal.
They did, and it was that crowd, and I think part of it was
Eddie's a Tennessee boy.
And Eddie's a Tennessee boy, and that the NWA crowd was more of a like a roughneck crowd, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so they were probably getting more behind Eddie because he was doing more heelish shit. You know.
Yeah.
So they're a crowd that's gonna like a roughneck heel more than they're gonna like a baby face. You know.
Yep.
Like the NWA crowd was wrestling, like me and you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not saying WWF was bad, but you look at it as you're like, say you and I are 32 years old in 1988. Who are you gonna cheer more for? Eddie Gilbert, who's like kicking people in the balls, or the Fantastics?
Right.
You know what I mean? Who are trying to shake their ass and be what? And I'm not knocking the Fantastics because I like them, but I'm just saying like that crowd is going to be more into a guy that's willing to cheat than two might be baby faces.
So yeah, the Fantastics win this match. They're the United States Tag Team Champions. We have Tony Schiavone and Lex Luger in the analyzing position for this event, and we've kicked that guy from last time to the curb that was going to be the special referee.
Yeah, he's gone.
Because they realized very quickly
he sucked.
John Ayers, that was his name. I had to remember his
John
name.
Ayers.
And then the next match, between the last show and this show, Steve Williams has joined the Varsity Club. So he has Kevin Sullivan at ringside. Jim Ross interviews Mike Rotunda and Kevin Sullivan. They discuss Rick Steiner, who is no longer with the Varsity Club since our last show. And they essentially call Rick Steiner a retard.
Yeah.
And without saying the word.
Oh, he's super retarded, isn't he, Kevin? Yeah, you don't like it retard.
But we have Steve Dr. Death Williams versus the Italian Stallion.
And this is the match where I would flip it, even though I said I agree with you that the last match was a little too long.
Yeah,
this match, way.
Yeah, it's like 15 minutes of
like a 17-minute match. And it's the Italian Stallion. Like, Steve should have murdered him.
Yeah, and that's what I expected when it started. I was like, oh, we got to squash.
I was going to murder this guy. And he doesn't. Like, Steve gave the Italian Stallion way too much offense. Like, I don't know if George Scott here yet, or is this still Dusty?
This is still Dusty, because Dusty is actually, I think, Booker of record until he finally just gets shit canned in about, what,
Yeah,
just
it's the
just
spike
after
thing. Yeah, you're
Starrcade.
right. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the spike thing that got him out of there. So yeah, this is still Dusty. Sorry, I wasn't
That's all right.
putting
I
it
think.
together
I
right
mean,
on my
we're
timeline.
like a month away from George Scott, because Dusty's on his way out after Starrcade.
Yeah. But this match was way too long and very boring. And I hate saying that about a Steve Williams match, but
Oh
this
no,
should
I
have been
agree.
like
I agree.
this should have been 5 minutes, and maybe the Stallion get like a drop kick and a couple punches, but this should have been just Steve just guzzling him,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't do anybody any favors at all, in my opinion.
Williams wins. I don't have any notes on the match other than Williams wins. And I agree with you. It was far too long for considering who was in the ring. If it would have been somebody that's like a mid-tier guy, like a guy, like somebody who've been seeing like a Brad Armstrong or something, then yeah, I can deal with that going 15, 16 minutes, but
Give me that.
not against Gary Sabal.
Yeah. And this is saying a lot, but if you would have told me, oh, Steve Williams versus Tim Horner, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, right.
Horner's a pretty good, solid athlete,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this just wasn't. This was just not good.
After this matchup, we have Magnum TA, and he introduces us to a man returning to the NWA. I guess technically he was in the NWA when he was in Mid-South because they were part of the NWA, but the Junkyard Dog is coming to the NWA. Ha ha, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All dappered in his denim. Watching Magnum interview him, and next week he's doing a lot of the commentary. I wanted to ask this.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I don't want to say it. I'm not gonna say you didn't like Magnum as a wrestler, but I know I was a bigger fan of him as a wrestler than you were.
Mm-hmm.
But like post him getting hurt, I think Magnum actually does a good job as being like an interviewer and a commentator.
No,
And
he is
an analysis, like an
yes,
analysis
that's what
guy
I
or
was about to
whatever.
say. He is really good at being like when they take an ex-football player, and the ex-football player joins the broadcast team to be an analyst to be the guy where like a Jim Ross who's never been in the ring can turn to that guy and say, what does that move do to you? You know what I mean? And Magnum, yeah, absolutely. Magnum does it. The only thing I ever say about Magnum, and he was a decent interviewer, and he was a great on the call analyst. The only thing that is funny to me about him is, I don't know why, but it seems like, I don't know if you've ever noticed it, but it seems like every time he comes on camera, like when he first comes on camera, he looks surprised.
Seems startled.
Yeah,
he seems startled when he's first on there. He's like, oh, hey.
Hi.
Hey,
I mean, then
how's it going?
he gets right into his groove. But yeah, it's like every time they put the camera on him, it's like, oh, hey, how you doing?
Hey, whoa. Hey there, buddy.
Back off the mustache.
But like, yeah, but like I said, like, I'm not saying like I would want to hear Magnum do play-by-play or whatever, but like if he's in there with somebody good like Tony or JR or whatever, or like, oh, he's putting that like cross arm breaker on him, what's that like, and he can explain it to you. I think he did a really good fucking job.
I do too.
I wish they would have kept him around, But yeah, but like you said, it's the Magnum interviews Junkyard Dog, and he discusses that Nikita got taken out, so now he's here to
take on Paul
Jones. Ivan Koloff. Yeah, he's said he's teaming with his homeboy. I don't know if he said homeboy, but he basically said it like Junkyard Dog Soul Style saying he's here to help his homie Ivan Koloff out with the assassins. I'm just thinking about Ivan Koloff and the Junkyard Dog as their characters.
Smoking a doobie together.
Yeah, meeting up or whatever. But yeah, it's gonna be the JYD and Ivan Koloff versus the Russian assassins. It's the Russian assassins at Starcade, and JYD's here now, so good for him.
We get an ad for Starcade, True Grit, and then, it's Ivan Koloff versus Paul Jones. Yes, Paul Jones is still around, but he is not long for the world. He is not protected by the Crockett's anymore. Like, I noticed that, like, there's a few people that once the Crockett's aren't the men in charge anymore, like the Turner people are like, that guy's got to go.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna be gone because what was it? What was the pay-per-view they were going into before this? The Great American
Bash.
It was supposed to be that if the Assassins lost or whatever, Paul Jones lost his career, and I'm like, well, apparently the Assassins won.
I'm trying
or they just ignored it.
No, there's some kind of a fuck finish on that. I can't remember. I haven't watched it in a while, but there's some kind of a fuck finish on that where he gets to keep his job, gets to hang on.
He lost his mustache either way.
Like hang on like grim fucking death. Paul Jones.
He did lose his mustache though. That's the first thing I noticed. Like Paul Jones has no mustache, or did he have a mustache? Maybe it's the next thing. Sorry.
No, I think he still had a
mustache. He still has his mustache
because he looks like he looks like an old guy porn star.
Yeah, I'm spoiler alerting it. I went into the next. I shouldn't have watched the next show before we did. No, he still has this mustache. So sorry, what's our fan?
Rigamus.
Don't rate me over the coals for that, buddy. But this match is Ivan Koloff versus number 1 Paul Jones. And they called it a handicap match because it actually was a handicap match because Ivan Koloff's arm is going to be tied behind his back. Vince stole it 10 years later and did a great job with it.
Yeah.
The stunner arm. Do the stunner arm.
The stunner arm.
Yeah. People talk about Vince not liking wrestling, but like that was some Memphis shit when he did that stuff with Steve. He knew what he was doing. But anyway.
Ivan Koloff. Ivan Koloff is one of those wrestlers that, like, in 1988, well, in 1978, I was first born, but say in the 80s, when I was a kid and I watched the WWF and then sometimes NWA on TBS or whatever, I would have, as a younger person, not been interested in Ivan Koloff, probably. I really enjoy Ivan Koloff. I enjoy
Ivan. Get older and realize what's going on in the wrestling business, and
yes,
the way to tell a story.
It's a shame he's not in the WWE Hall of Fame.
I think he got put in that legacy deal.
Did he?
I think so.
Well, it's a shame he didn't get his own. I don't know who would have been. I guess they could have had some. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But he, as you know, and anybody else knows, I am not a fan. I'm not a fan of Nikita Koloff. Very much so. I don't hate Nikita Koloff, but I think Nikita Koloff's a bit overrated. I don't think Ivan Koloff gets talked about for how good he was.
Yeah. Off of like recommendations from you and Chad, I started listening to Bo James, and Bo James has that whole show about like Ivan Koloff saves the business or whatever, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And just talks about how much he taught people and how many guys should credit their career to him. And he was, and if you like go and watch like early Smoky Mountain and stuff like that, like he should be maybe not title wise or whatever, but he should be talked about in the same breath in that aspect of the business as Terry Funk.
Absolutely.
Where he'd walk into a locker room and not be like, I'm the biggest star here, as being the guy be like, well, you're gonna pay me however much you're gonna pay me, no matter what. So let me put over that guy.
Right.
Let me put over that guy. Or, oh, let me team with that guy. I can make him my protege, and maybe a little bit of my whatever will rub off on him, and then you can turn him into something. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't selfish.
Yeah.
Or a piece of shit. Like, he was willing to do whatever he could do to help the promotion, because he was at that point in his career. It's like, I know my worth.
Yeah.
And you know my worth. So
I've been around forever. I've done everything I'm going to do. I've worked with everybody.
It's not going to hurt me anything for this fucking guy to pin.
It's not going to hurt. It's not. You could never hurt Ivan Koloff, because Ivan Koloff is one of the 2 people that could ever say I beat Bruno in the Garden. Come on,
like, fuck off.
like that's something that you that's one
Nobody
of those things. Nobody else can say that. Hey, Ivan, I think you're losing your edge a little bit. I beat Bruno in the Garden. Like, okay, fuck it, whatever.
I shut down a crowd, motherfucker. But yeah,
and he is not in the WWE Hall of Fame, by the way.
Oh, I thought he was put in that legacy deal.
Nope, he is in the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, but he is not in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Well, maybe that'll change now that somebody that respects the wrestling business is in there.
But of course, Koloff beats Paul Jones in this match. And then both of the Russian assassins come out. I think one of them is Jack Victory, isn't it? I can't remember who the other one is.
Rip Morgan, maybe.
Maybe I'd have to look it up. But
they always put Victory and Rip Morgan in outfits and made them do shit. And I'm not saying that degrading them, especially Jack Victory. Jack Victory is an underrated guy for that. Like the JCP, WCW company. Like, he's not the same as like a Steve Lambardi, but he's kind of like a Steve Lambardi.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can put him in whatever kind of character you wanted him to do, and get a good match out of whoever you put him in there with.
I had to look it up. The other guy here was not Rip Morgan. It's actually Angel of Death.
Oh yeah, okay.
I wonder if never mind. I don't want to get too in the weeds. Junkyard Dog out for the save. Tony Schiavone is again with Lex Luger in the analyzing area. They talk about the Road Warriors. They already showed us earlier the Road Warriors heel turn. I forgot to mention that with the spike in Dusty's eye.
Yeah, bad idea.
That turning the Road Warriors in the NWA, well, actually turning the Road Warriors heel anywhere is a bad idea.
Stupid. And what is Jim Crockett promotion and now WCW's fixation on it? And I know they all look good. Like Steve Williams looks good, and obviously Lex looks good. But it's like, oh, let's take this top babyface we're gonna try to get over, and let's have him talk. It's like neither one of them are good at it. just let them look good.
Talking is not one of Lex Luger's allocades.
Yeah. Let him talk for 30 seconds. Don't have him analyze something.
I know you're not a fan of it. I know you're not a fan of it. But do you know when Lex Luger was actually best on the microphone? He was best on the microphone in the spring of summer of 97 when he had that team with Giant in WCW. I know you don't like it, but the shit was over. The shit was over.
It was over, but that was a boring fucking team. Oh my God, you guys are boring. Well, he only looked good because he was next to Paul White, who had no fucking idea what he was doing in 1997. It took Paul to get to like 99, and Vince being like, "Ugh, listen, pal, just be funny." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, yeah. Lex in 88, 30-second fucking
Yeah.
sound bites, man. And he's
Well, like I always say,
the biggest star in the world.
My favorite Lex Luger is 90 late 90 through 92 Lex Luger, and that's when he had Harley Race as his mouthpiece.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's when he was 30-second sound bits or sound bites. You know? Yeah, it's just or pre-produced shit. Don't sit him down next to fucking Tony on live TV and be like, "Tell us what you think, Lex." Like, oh my god.
Then the next match,
especially
here,
as a baby face. Heel Lex, tell us what you think. Yeah, that's him. Anyway, sorry.
The match is Road Warrior Animal versus Dusty Rhodes. The winner can claim the 6-man tag team title, which is that 6-man tag team title was a useless fucking title. Always was. Watching all the Crockett stuff, like they showed a belt, and I was like, watching all the Crockett stuff I've ever watched, I didn't even know there was a fucking belt, because all they ever talk about is how Dusty Rhodes and the Road Warriors are the 6-man tag team champions all the fucking time. Like, I didn't even know the belts existed. I thought it was just one more thing Dusty could say he was. But anyway, the 6-man tag title, the winner of this gets to claim that title. For some reason, I don't know what was going on with Dusty. Really said, it appears Dusty is late. I don't know if that was like on purpose or if there really was something going on.
Because I think they were just trying to get through their commercials.
Well, the Road Warrior Road Warrior Animal comes out. He's in the ring, and then he's like yelling for Dusty, and then they say something about Dusty's late. So then they shoot to an interview with Magnum TA interviewing Rick Steiner. So like I said, I don't know if something was going on, or I don't know. I have no idea.
Maybe he had a,
but
look at Dusty. Maybe he had to poop. It's either he had to poop or they had to get through their commercials.
We get Magnum interviewing idiot savant Rick Steiner here. He asks him about his suplexes and stuff, and he says something about liking to eat souffles.
Yeah, I know you suck. I know that we're talking about Rick kind of being retarded or whatever. I know we're not supposed to use that word, but
I enjoy him. I enjoy him as this babyface.
Dude,
I did not like it. I did not like. I'm not a fan of the Varsity Club, but he was the best thing about the Varsity Club.
He was. And I was going to kind of pose this question for next week, because like I said, I got ahead of myself. But I was watching this too, taking it, and I just thought it right here. And watching this promo and everything like that. If somebody would have just not been so, like, if that company wouldn't have been so worked up about how Lex Luger looked, look-wise, I wish somebody would have realized that Rick Steiner, when he broke off from the Varsity Club in this, like, short little, like, 5-6 month span, Rick was the biggest babyface they had.
Yeah.
He was the most over with the crowd. That Alex gimmick was it was silly, but it was fucking funny and creative, and like I've said it on shows before, like I think Rick should have had like a 6-month reign as like NWA champion. I would have much rather watch Ric Flair versus Rick Steiner than Ric Flair versus Lex Luger.
Mm-hmm.
I think the matches would have been better. I think the promos would have been better. Just everything would have been better. Like I'm more of a fan of, like, if I'm watching it, if I would be in like a transport machine and go back to like 1988, I'm like, fucking Steiner over Luger, man. He's the best. He can. It's like his character's better. He can work better than Luger. Like he was the fucking man. I'd even put him over Sting. Rick Steiner was the fucking shit. Sorry, I could talk about Rick Steiner all fucking day.
Well, after this interview with Rick Steiner versus Magnum, we jump into Dusty Rhodes versus Road Warrior Animal. Dusty finally shows up. Essentially, this is only a few minutes, and then Road Warrior Animal's going after Dusty's eye. Dusty goes after his eye. Then Hawk comes out and interferes. Sting comes out and interferes, and all hell breaks loose. And that's pretty much where we're at with this. It was, again, I don't advocate in any way, shape, or form the Road Warriors turning heel. I think it was a stupid idea.
This whole match was stupid.
Yeah.
That ref bump that Dusty did, like where he just like his hand just bumped the referee.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes like 4 more minutes, and then Dusty uses the chair on Animal, and they DQ him for the chair.
Yeah.
It's like, for one, Dusty's arm hitting the referee they meant to make it look like Dusty erratically hit the referee, like he didn't mean it.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't well placed. It looked totally staged. And then the referee gets knocked down and he's laid out, and then they come back and they're like, oh, Dusty Rhodes disqualified for using the chair. I was like, well, he should have been disqualified for hitting the ref. That would have been a more logical finish.
Mm-hmm.
This whole thing was stupid. I didn't like any of it.
Yep, I'm not a fan of this either. Yeah, I don't know. I just, like I said, I think it was a terrible idea turning them heel in the first place, and then the things that are happening don't make any fucking sense. So,
that crowd's never gonna boo the Road Warriors,
right? So as a result of this, the Road Warriors get to have the 6-man tag team championships. If I'm not mistaken, I think they wind up choosing Tenryu to be there. It doesn't matter because it's the 6-man tag team championships.
They choose Tenryu. And then next week we find out why Tenryu quit. But anyway, we'll get there.
The main event of this Clash of the Champions, it's the Midnight Express versus Ric Flair and Barry Windham, who are essentially the Horsemen at this point because Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard have left the promotion.
Yes.
Flair's the world champion. Barry Windham's the United States champion. Go ahead.
And the Midnight are the tag champs.
Yes. Which I don't think they wore the belts to the ring, though.
I don't think so. But what I put is, like, in 1988, when you look at, like, 1998, and I say this because of the managers, it's like, if you look at this main event, this is, like, 6 of the best people in the entire fucking world in one match.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's true, and maybe I'm just remembering things different than what I heard. But I heard when, like, Arn and Tully left through shoot interviews and other things, that when they were thinking about rebranding the Horsemen and putting people in it, supposedly Flair wanted Stan and Bobby to be in it. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've heard it on a couple different things.
I don't know if I've ever heard Cornette address that on the drive-through or not, to be honest with you, because I would think that would be something that would have come up at some point. And he could have, and I just am misremembering. But I don't know if I remember him ever talking about that on the drive-through or not.
And because remember, they did, like, after this happened, they did that whole, what was it, like, when Hiro Matsuda shows up.
Yeah, it's not J-Tex. That's the one Funk was in.
The Hashimoto Incorporated.
Mr. Matsuda representing a corporation from Japan.
Yeah,
Because JJ doesn't last much longer either. He's off to the WWF in early '89.
And they did that whole stupid corporation thing, and they bring in Kendall and all that shit. Yeah, it gets sideways. But at this point, at least, it's. I mean, there's no way this is going to be bad.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And watching Flair versus Eaton, they had one singles match, which I think might be on a Clash.
It's on a Clash. Yes, it's on a Clash because it's one of the. It's one of those. It's during they want Ric Flair to have short hair and an earring era, right before he leaves. It's on one of those clashes.
I think it's one of those clashes where they have it like in a center stage, like it's not even in an arena or whatever. We'll get there, but that's one of my notes. Is there's not enough Ric Flair, Bobby Eaton interaction in pro wrestling, because it's like when they're in there, you just see it, and you're like, God damn, man. It would have been great if these guys would have had more.
It's effortless. They're just breathing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's effortless. Absolutely. Yes.
And then Stan's in there, and Stan is the only guy in the history of professional wrestling that can say he's the only guy Ric Flair ever trained.
Mm-hmm.
Flair trained Stan. That's the only guy that he's ever just 100%. I trained this guy. So it's like Flair's going into it all out with these guys, and he looked at a Bobby Eaton and was like, "Look at this fucking guy." You know what I mean? All those years working in the same locker room with him and everything, and Stan's great, and Barry Windham is at this point probably one of the top 5 professional wrestlers in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like we discussed. It's like I said, either last week or last show or the show before. I would put Barry Windham's 87 through 87 through when he's done as Widowmaker in the WWF, and then the whole family fallout thing and everything, and he's for that 2.5 year period, he's one of the best workers on the planet, top 5 easy.
Yep. Widowmaker was his best in shape, in my opinion. But
oh yeah.
That's because he had probably juice if he was in WWF. But yeah,
the match is great. I have no negative notes on it. I even love the fact that because it's the Midnights and the Horsemen, and it's JJ and it's Cornette, it's like we're all going to try to fuck each other, and somebody's just going to fuck a little harder. Everybody's trying to fuck everybody through the whole thing.
Yeah, there's shoes and there's referee distractions and tennis rackets, and
I love the dueling heel managers of Cornette. Like Cornette and the Midnights are kind of supposed to kind of be acting like faces, but they're not faces. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It'd be like the WWF equivalent of putting like Bobby Heenan and Mr. Fuji out there.
Yeah, or Bobby Heenan and Bobby Heenan and Slick. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like somebody's gonna try to fuck somebody in this situation. And the other guy would be upset if they didn't.
Right. I'm so disappointed.
I'm disappointed in you.
But yeah, we get there's an Alabama Jam from Bobby Eaton, and then James Dillon tries to get in the ring and interfere, but Jim Cornette cuts him off, and then Dillon and Cornette have a fantastic, like a little bitch fight. And then Ric Flair winds up using J.J. Dillon's shoe on Bobby Eaton, and Windham gets the pin on Bobby Eaton. But yeah, the match was great. The finish was great. Everything about this was great. And the good thing about that was I wasn't a big fan of the rest of the show. So the main event made up for it. I actually was not a big fan of this show. I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of good wrestling in it and stuff, but I walked away from it going, other than the main event, I could have done without the whole thing.
I somewhat agree with it. It wasn't the people. like the guys involved in it. It was just the length of some of the matches and whatever. I was just like, it felt rudderless, and it actually probably was pretty rudderless at this
because
point.
you've got the company in charge is transitioning. The booker, Dusty, is finding himself in hot water all over the place, and where he's not, he's trying to do his politics, and he's not happy. They're not happy with him, which obviously is going to trickle down to the wrestlers and the stories, and it just kind of goes. It kind of, I don't know, just feels like it kind of went off the rails here a little bit. And I mean, they're gonna get their shit back in order pretty quick, but
yeah, it's like when I watch it, it almost feels like, say, Dusty's back there and Steve Williams and the Italian Stallion are like, "What do you want us to do, boss?" And he's just like, "I don't fucking care. Do whatever you want."
you want to go 15 minutes if you want to,
go
baby.
15 minutes, man.
Then
we got time to fill.
And then they do 15 minutes. And they come back. He's like, "God damn, I was being sarcastic."
Damn, man, that was terrible. My favorite Dusty Rhodes story is fucking Steve Regal.
Do some of that British shit.
Do some of that. How much time do I have? 5 minutes. What do you want me to do? Do some of that British shit. That takes more than 15. That takes more than 5 minutes. But my favorite part of it is talking about the first time he met Dusty, and Dusty was sitting was like laying down on a bench, and he was like naked except his cowboy hat, and he had Doug Dillinger with him, and William Regal or Steve Regal said Dusty Rhodes looked at him and was like, "I'm just like Whitney Houston. I got my own bodyguard." All he's wearing is a cowboy hat. It's like, what the fuck am I getting into?
This big fat naked man.
It's like Whitney Houston, baby. I got my own
bodyguard. So I guess I know the answer to this question, but I ask it as we're doing these shows. I've been asking is whether we are worse off from the last Clash, stayed about the same, or better. I'd say this one slid back. We definitely regressed a little bit.
This show did slid back. This show did slide back. I wasn't as big of a fan of it, but I gave it a little bit more, like, when they talk about grading on the curve or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I gave it a little bit of a curve because I was like, man, it's transitioning as a company, so I'll give it that much. But this was not as good as the first 3 that we watched.
So we're going to go on ahead and sign off here. We'll talk about Clash of the Champions 5 next week, which is St. Valentine's Day Massacre. There are going to be some happenings happening between this Clash and the next one, which we'll cover on the next one. I want to thank any of you that are commenting on the YouTube page. Subscribers are up. Listenership for the podcast on the audio platforms that we've been on for years is about the same. We do pretty well, but YouTube's definitely gaining a little bit of traction. So if you want to go and subscribe to our YouTube page, the WNR Podcast Network, yes, thank you very much for that. Thank you to those that have commented. We appreciate your support. Those that listen, anybody that listens to the show, tell your friends, tell your mama, tell your daddy, tell your mistress, tell anybody that likes wrestling that wants to listen to our show or you think might like it. We appreciate it. Let them know about the We Can't Wrestle podcast and Reliving the Extreme both. And that being said, Aaron, unless you have anything else to say, we'll just sign off for this week and head toward next week in the Clash of the Champions 5.
I just like you said, and we can't get any better if you guys don't tell us what you think about it. So comment, write, or like, review, all that good shit. So
absolutely. All right. We'll see you next week, everybody, for Clash of the Champions 5, St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Until then, have a great week.